What's up? Get myself together. Get myself together. I think. Let me close some of this stuff down. Get myself together. Let me know if you see me. I'm trying to get my thing together. Just check in. How y'all doing? Check in where you from, where you are. Trying to get my page right here so I can see too. Check in. Let me know who you is. I know I'm running late. Okay, here. Let's see. I'm over here. Turn this sound down. What we got going on here? Okay. Let's see. Great morning. Give me a second here. Okay. All right. Get this out of my ear. All right. It's been a minute, y'all. Oh, last week I was busy. How y'all doing? Great morning. Who we got here? Put something in the comments so I can see who we got here. Turn this comment on so I can see it. All right. Let me see. Great morning. It is a Saturday morning, and what it look like outside? It look cold outside. Ain't been out there yet, but I plan on going out soon. All right. What's happening? I'm James Schuler. For those who don't know, whenever you watch it, you click in, and hey, we're gonna talk about something here. All right. What's up? This Wayne MBK. First and foremost, for y'all, for those of you who forgot, got a lot of things going on. Before I get started, what we talking about today, I got my folder out here. I got to do this every week. Every week, I got to do this. I got to make sure that we remember. You got a folder. Do you have a folder that you put your children's stuff in from school? Are you keeping that information? I mean, we are almost Christmas time now. We done been in school for a minute. Y'all got some stuff together. Y'all been communicating. Y'all know what's going on with your child in school. If you don't know what's going on with your child in school, I need to ask you why. Why? If you don't know why, you should be done talk to. If your child has disciplinary issues, as you think, you should be done talk to the vice principal by now. In the least, the very worst case scenario, you should be done talk to your child's counsel. You and your child's counsel should have a relationship by now. All right, it's been half a year. It's been almost half a year, almost half a school year. Think about that. Almost half a school year. Do you and have you talked to your child's school guidance counselor yet? If not, call them first thing Monday morning. Stop playing. This is your child, not mine. All right. So that being said, get your folder, talk to your counselor, talk to your principal, talk to your child, man. Check, see how your child. Ask your child simple questions. Things like, who's your favorite teacher? Who's not your favorite teacher? And then the most important question, why? Why is this your favorite teacher? What does they do? What does your favorite teacher do to make them favorite? Because sometimes we forget, right, that children, they like the one that's the easiest the most. They're not gonna say, "Oh, my favorite teacher is the one that challenges me." They'll say, "My favorite teacher is the one that don't require me to do nothing." Sometimes they may say, "My favorite teacher is the one that lets me play on my phone." Sometimes the favorite teacher may be the one that brings me snacks to school. Sometimes the favorite teacher may be the one that holds me accountable. But we gotta make sure that we know why this person is your child's favorite teacher. All right, why is it your favorite? Why is this person your child's favorite person in school? Why is this your child's favorite person in the community? Knowing what's going on and why your child has these values is very important. All right, that helps help your child develop values that you support, and that supports what you're all about. And then that starts the process of rebuilding and healing the family. That's what we all talk about. We're gonna do. We want to keep our family together and rebuild and heal our family. So that's a simple process you can do for school stuff. All right, simple process. Again, I'm gonna repeat it. Contact your school, talk to your guidance counselor, your child's guidance counselor. Say, hey, if you just joined in, click and let me know where you watching from. All right, but talk to your kid's guidance counselor. Go to the school, call the school, say, hey, guidance counselor, you're my child's guidance counselor. I don't want to talk to any old counselor. I want to talk to the one who has the files and who knows my child. You ask me how much child is this happening? How much child are we doing? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. If you have not yet, do it. I implore you, do it. And then talk to the principal and so forth. You should have a relationship, all right? And after having said that, talk to your child, like I just said. Talk to your child. Find out who's the favorite teacher, why is it the favorite teacher. And then tomorrow, why is this person not? Why don't you like this class? Why don't you like this teacher? Because there's a phrase, right, that says that I believe it goes on. You may like a thing that is bad for you. You may love a thing. You may like a thing that's bad for you. You may hate a thing that's good for you. Remember that. Children would like a thing that's bad for them, and they will hate a thing that is good for them. So you should always ask, okay, why don't you like this teacher? Because this may be the one that they need to be with, and the one that they like, it may be the one that they shouldn't be with. So check into that, all right? Now, and get your files folder, get your files, put your paperwork together. If your child has an IEP, for those who don't know, an IEP is individualized education plan. That's something that's put together through some testing or a bunch of counseling sessions and talks with the parent and the school people in special education. And they say, this is what your child needs to be successful. By now, you should understand it. You should know it. All right, you should be able to take that file out, that IEP, those how many ever pages they got, and you should be able to look it over, and you should be able to say, yep, this is what's on it, and this is what's not on it, and then you should, when it's time to review it, you should be able to understand it. All right, those are your responsibilities. All right, those are some of your. There's some, not all, but there are some of your responsibilities. It's your child, is your family's future, so you should invest in it. And one of the easy ways you can invest in it is real simple. Check it in. All right, just check it in. Just check it in. All right, and ask your kids some questions. Get a school, whatever electronic system that the school uses to keep track of records and send out messages and to communicate with your child. All right, forget about for a second, just for a second, not long term, but just for a second. Forget about your ability to communicate with the school. Look at your child's Chromebook. Have them open it up. Have them show you how the school communicates with it. What does it got to do? What can it do? What's do? What's not do? Your child has the ability to see its grades in real time. Your child has the ability to see what work is old, what work isn't old. All you got to do is say, hey, Melissa, Johnny, whoever, open your computer up and let me see your work. It's just that simple. It is not complicated. Open your computer up, open your Chromebook up. Let me see your work. Let me see what you owe. Let me see what you completed. Let me see what message the teacher sent you. Check it out. And that may be all your child needs to get it together in school. So, oh, shoot, mom going to check. So let me see that Chromebook, because if you break it, boy, you know I'm going to be responsible for it. So let me see that Chromebook. Open it up. Let me see the screen. Where's it at? When they come in the house, where that Chromebook at? Tell them, stop letting your kids just leave their stuff at school. Say, nah, bro, you got to bring some homework. You got to bring your stuff home. I need to see that you still have that Chromebook. Because a lot of kids, they don't even have the Chromebook no more. They lost it. They go to school, they pick them up, they get replacements. You don't even know it. Or you haven't been made aware, or you haven't seen the email yet. And another thing, make sure your kids bring their books, their coats and stuff home. Because at schools, they have lost and found. And lost and found is crazy. It's crazy huge. Especially in middle school. Lost and found is crazy big. It's huge. It's coats of all types. So it's all types of coats and shoes and stuff there. Make sure you check to see where your kids' stuff at, because it may be sitting right there on that table by the auditorium. All right. Whew, having said that. Now, back to my topic here. Matter of fact, if you watching me, share this live. I'm gonna share it myself. I haven't shared it yet. I'm gonna share it. Share this live. You haven't shared it. All right. Share it with everybody. Let me see how am I gonna do this here. Oh, my thing is crazy. Share the live. Share. Share this live. Post. All right. Let's see here. Share live. All right. Now, why am I talking about schools and teachers and parents and communicating with schools and so forth? Well, I'm asking a question here. I've been asking this question. I've been asking this question to a lot of people. Am I froze? No. All right. I've been asking this question to a lot of people in the buildings, in school buildings, and around the community. And I've been asking it a lot, even in my own home. All right. So I'm asking y'all this question. If parents are the problem with the children and their behavior, right? If we have a parenting issue, parents don't care, parents aren't supervised, parents ain't doing what they're supposed to do, they're deadbeats, they this, they that, their children just running rampant through the community and just tearing stuff up. If that's the case, if that's what's going on, that's what you believe. Let me ask this question: how did those bad parents, those terrible parents, those uncaring parents that we all talk about, how did they become the children who don't raise their kids, but their parents raised them? Well, what I mean is just simple. How do we get bad parents but good grandparents? I'm a grandparent. Okay. How did the children get the blame for what the children in school and in the community are doing today? So how did the children of my generation become the problem? That's my question for today. All right, that's the thing I want you to think about. All right, if you're from that generation, you're in between your late 30s and you're 60 years old. All right, that's what I'm gonna put it to that between 39, 38. If you're between 38, I'm gonna say 30, 40. I'm gonna say 40. If you're between the age of 40 and 60, if you're in between the age of 40 and 60, and you have children, and your children have children. So if you have grandchildren, and your grandchildren are having issues, and you believe that the children of this generation right now problem, the kids that's in school right now, their issue is their parents who were our parents, our children, are bad parents. They're not doing their responsibility. How did that happen and we did what we were supposed to do? So in reality, could it be that what's going on is a continuum? It's a long-term breakdown. It's not a short-term breakdown. Not something that just happened with these kids today. Could it be a lot more complicated than that? Yes, and I believe it is. I believe it's both complicated and simple. I think there's some type of phrase they use for that, but I just don't know what it is yet. But there's got to be some type of phrase that they use to say something that's hard and easy at the same time. Because this situation is real simple to understand, but it's also complicated. All right, the young people today, we can't keep going around blaming our kids. All right, we got to look at what's going on and what roles do adults play. All right, then we look at the parenting and we say, okay, what role do today's parents play? But what opportunities did those parents of today have? What opportunities did those parents of today have to become successful parents of today? What did we provide for the children of the parents of today yesterday? What did we, from 40 to 60, provide for the children who are parents today? Those who are in their 30s and 20s, and they have children. All right, and those children are struggling. They're in lower grades of schools. All right, some of us have children who are my generation, and you have children who are in school still. All right, it's all mixed up. But for those of us who have grandchildren in the school systems, how did we do the right? How do we fix our mouths? How do we fix ourselves to say that we were good parents, but our children aren't, and it ain't our fault. But our children's children, our grandchildren, are bad in school and bad in the community, but it's our children's fault. I don't understand. I'm a little bit confused. That's a little bit confusing to me, but I'm gonna ride with it. Right? I'm gonna ride with it. It's a little bit confusing to me. But I'm gonna ride with it because I don't understand how the heck does the parent become bad, but the grandparents are good. So, well, it is an explanation. It's a long term problem, all right? And it falls down into topics where people hate. All right? America has always had problems. All right, we've always had these types of issues. It's just that when the issues affect certain people, yes, I said that. When the issues affect certain people, it's easy to say what the problem is. But when it's not, it's difficult. People don't want to say. I see topics rising again that I've seen fade away. I mean, and it's kind of weird, but I'm going to get into those topics a little bit later on. Not right now. I don't want to get into. I don't want to regurgitate stuff that people have been talking about before. All right, so I want to remind us of something that people have forgotten about. All right, there's a concept called fascism. Fascism. All right, fascism. And it's really deep. It gets really complicated, really crazy. I'm not going to get way mad deep into the whole thing. I'm just going to touch over the surface. I want you to go look it up yourself. I want you to go do some research on it yourself. Check it out. See what you can find out. Fascism. All right. Check out fascism. All right. For those who don't know, and those who do know, be honest about it when you talk about it. Don't try to put the historical spin and keep it way back when you talk about Mussolini. Let's talk about how fascism exists today. And you're quick to say socialism, you're quick to say communism, you're quick to put these other isms as the enemies. Okay, how about fascism as the enemy? All right, and fascism, in a nutshell, real simple put, is just basically the idea that it's like a fire. It's the opposite. You know, they talk about extreme liberalism and socialism is like a liberal ideal. It's like way over here, this crazy liberal thing that liberals do. Well, fascism is a right wing thing. It's way over here in the ultra right. And believe it or not, when you look into the history of it, they have phrases that they use like "make whatever great again," keep it great, and the whole idea of fascism is based in the fact that people believe that their way should be the way, and they are the ones who everybody should follow, and everybody should do what we want to do. And give you an example of one of the most popular fascists that ever existed. Unfortunately, is Hitler. Now, I'm not saying we have those type of issues here that on that level, but I'm saying that the dude was crazy and had a whole bunch of issues and had a whole bunch of things, but he had his belief. But he had his belief. All right. And when we sit back, especially with today, with all the talk of anti-Semitism, Semitism, and so forth, the people that hate this and blah 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 blah, and with all that, especially the nonsense that Kanye West has brought out and all that. When you sit back and really think about it, it's very important that we understand what we're talking about, and who we're talking about, and how they're talking, because Hitler did a lot of crazy shit, and he was a terrible dude, but he had his belief was fascism. And it was that he should that the only way that everybody should live is the way that the fascists believe. All right, and people don't like hearing this, but a lot of fascists, they will consider right wing, far right, and they was considered also ultra conservatives. A lot of people don't want to face that, but it's the fact. You look it up. You don't take my word for it. You look it up. They believed in dictatorships, meaning that one person or one ideal should control everything, and they should have a figurehead that be one that leads them and everything, and they should never question him or argue with him because he or she gonna make some mistakes because they're people, they're human, but their ideals and their views are for this one particular race, particular group, particular ideal, to control all public ideals and so forth and so on. And fascism. Check it out. Make sure we're not sit back right now and we're fascists in disguise. All right, we speaking out against anything and everybody that we don't agree with. All right, we sit back and we say, you know what? I don't think that this should happen, so I'm going to campaign against it, and I'm going to raise money, I'm going to raise funds, and I'm going to donate to, and I'm going to make sure these things don't exist in the public square. Who made you people the owners of public square? I mean, seriously. Um, when we talk about the community and youth and what's going on with young people and everything, we got to remember that they're watching. And one thing that they like to do more than people want to admit is they like to they like to play house. Kids play house. I mean, they don't call it that no more. But remember, as a kid, you used to play house. And when you was a kid, you play house. You mimic who? Yeah, the adults that you know. Exactly. The adults that you're around. Now, when we were kids, when I was a kid, there was a lot of adults, but you didn't have access to so many strangers, to so many different concepts of living, so many different ways. It was like, this is what we did. That's how we live. Now children have the phone, the internet, and social media. Okay, it used to be where I would move. If we moved from here to wherever, I had to make new friends and get it together. And hopefully one day I'll go back and I'll see my old friends again one day. But what that really means is that I was able to move. Now, when children move, they physically move someplace else. And yes, they make new friends and they develop new things, but they stay in communication with the oldest too. They don't never really move away wholly. So you really, but a lot of times when parents say, well, I want to get you out of here because you need to make some changes. Really, you're not really moving them out of something. What you're really doing is just adding more to the table. All right. If you try to get them away, get your kids away from bad people, bad influence, negative influences, and you go to another place, they're not really leaving them. They're still connected to them on their social media. All right, and they're still doing the things. So you still adding on, and you're still you introduce them to other people who have similar things. Then their network ends up getting bigger. The negative people, the negative influences that you're trying to keep them away from, it gets bigger because they meet more people where you take them to. So then they get connected to those people. Then they put those people in their social links, and now their social circle has just gotten bigger. All right. So your idea of trying to control what the kids see, what the kids don't see, what they learn, what they don't learn, it's all done, and I think a lot of times with great intentions, but unfortunately, children sit back and they watch, and I believe that they'd be like, you know what, my parents don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm not even gonna listen to them. And that's why I believe when we say parents are the problem, that's what's going on. Not that they don't know what they're doing, they're not trying. I think that we don't lost contact with reality of what's going on because we're too busy sitting back and looking at the political problems. We're not really facing the fact that our children are watching us and they're mimicking us. If they're mimicking us, then we say, whoa, whoa. If we understand that our children are mimicking us, we say, whoa. If we understand that our children are pretending to be us, we say, whoa, because our children are out of control. And if they're mimicking us, who else is out of control? Yeah, us. Yeah, us. So, people, pay attention. Pay attention. I'm gonna say this again. Pay attention, because if you want things to get better, you got to go back and you got to look at fascism. You got to look at what you're doing, what you believe in, and who's opposing you. Because how you put this stuff out there in the community and in the public, and what you say about what should go on in the public, what shouldn't go in the public, while young people watching, it only pushes this divide, this hatred down the road even further. Because I talk to a lot of different people, and some of the biggest things that's going on right now again is how kids are being educated. What information are they being introduced to, and at what time? Oh, this is a crazy argument I see people making. Should schools do this? Should schools allow that? What type of books should come into school? What type of books shouldn't come into school? I've had this argument before. Right. But I had it in prison. I had it in prison. Same argument. All right. One time in, I think it was 1999. It seemed like a whole lifetime ago. But remember for those who were around and of age at that time, in 1999, what was the fear? Yeah, Y2K. They had this big conspiracy going to happen. That the whole computer world was going to shut down because the computers didn't have the ability to go from 1999 to 20000. Right? You couldn't go from 1999 to 2000. So they figured that. So somebody got this belief that the whole internet was going to just crash. All right, and in that process, a lot of people started all types of political other upheaval and movements and so forth and so on. All right, and one of the things that was started was on the inside of prisons. At the same time that was going on, there was this push for change in laws and parole and so forth. And I happen to be caught up in the middle of that movement right there. So I'm studying. I'm fresh in prison. I'm studying. I'm learning. I don't know. I don't know much. I'm just like most people that I knew from out this way. I didn't know nothing about history of myself or any black, white, blue, green. Or I didn't have all information. I didn't have all those books. I didn't read like that. I didn't like to read like that. I didn't study like all this stuff. I didn't do that then. But I started when I went in, and I developed and people taught me a strategy for how to learn. And that strategy that I used was learning about history first, and learn about the history of things, not just history in general, but I had to learn about things. So I was like, you know what? People talk about the Ku Klux Klan and all that. I want to learn what is that? What is that? What is that Ku Klux Klan? I heard about how they started and all that, and I read that. But I wanted to know. This dude wrote a book called Klan Unmasked. And he was an investigative journalist. He went inside the Klan and he studied how they did. He watched and he became one. Then he got out. He wrote a book, exposed the whole thing. Wow. All right, what's that got to do with what I'm talking about? Well, this is how fascism works. I'm giving out paperwork and information on the Y2K work stop. There's a big work stop that's going to stop, and all the prisoners was going to stop working because it's like, why are we doing all this work? Why are we making these license plates in Auburn? Why are we making the furniture? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And don't nobody want to even support those of us who earn the right to get out. They don't even support us getting out. So why are we still working? Why? Because people we had this belief in it, and it's still and it's real. It's a belief, and it's a deep one. If the prisoners in Auburn stopped making license plates, we wouldn't be able to afford to drive because the steel workers union would have to make license plates. And you know how much license plates would go up if the prisoners in Auburn stopped making license plates? That's a dangerous idea right there. And that's for people who run a government and run a society. So prisoners inside say, you know what, we're gonna stop this. In Auburn, in Elmira, in Attica, they make metal. They make desks, file cabinets, and all that kind of stuff. They want to stop, and they do license plates and all this work. They do it for like 35 to 45 cents an hour. Okay, they do steel workers work, metal workers work. They make manhole covers and manhole fittings and print and all that kind of stuff in Auburn and Elmira. Attica make metal stuff. They make bed frames and dressers and so forth. All over the Department of Correction, they do all types of different. They made all types of different things. And the prison base was going to stop working Y2K. The year 2000 was going to stop working, and it was spreading this material all over the place. And here I am. I just happened to be in a spot where everybody came, and I was like perfect for. My cell. Yes, in prison, my cell was perfectly situated to give out information to everybody. And that's what they get. That's what brothers had me doing. That was my role. I was master of information. I was giving out information. So lo and behold, the administration, they came and they wanted to stop us from disseminating this information. And they came and they searched my cell. And the issue was that people were going to stop working. They don't want that. So they came in, they took all the material, they locked me up, and they gave me a misbehavior report and all that stuff. And then they said that we got to get rid of this information, and you can't be doing this, and they wanted to stop all the work shortage and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But their argument was against what the material that I had. It wasn't what the brothers and everybody was talking about doing. It was about the material, because the material I had was Black Panther material. It was historical material. It was saying this type of material should be in prison because it was slaying people and it does this and so forth and so on. They didn't want it there. So they told me that I had to sit at home. I had to destroy it or sit at home. But I'm like, wait a minute. I'm here for giving out a piece of paper that had information about parole rules and parole laws and so forth and so on. But you're telling me that I can't have my books. You're saying I can't have this material. What's that got to do with? I'm not passing out my books to nobody. It's you just can't have that type of material in the facilities. It's not appropriate for people in this situation. I've heard this argument that people make about the books and stuff in schools now too. I made that. I've had to fight that argument, and I said to them, I said, well, wait a minute now. If you're saying that I can't learn about Black Panthers, I can't learn about the truth about Martin Luther King, I can't learn about the truth behind Malcolm X, I can't learn about the freedom struggles and the Black Liberation Army and the political prisoners and all the bull that was going on between the freedom of Black people from slavery up until the integration and the 80s and where we at today. I can't learn none of that stuff about what happened to get us where we're at now. He said, no, it's not that. It's just the materials inflaming. The material is not something that we support in our facilities. So you don't support Black Panthers and all that kind of stuff. I'm not actually supporting. I'm trying to learn about it. He said, oh, no, we can't have it. I said, okay. Well, did you know? I asked him this. And this is what we do now. We'll sit back and we'll say, this material kids can't have access to this material, they can't have access to that material. I said, well, I asked the hearing officer in the facility, did you know that I read a book and you have it in your library right now? If you pull my library records, you'll see that I checked it out several times. It's called The Klan Unmasked. And it explains the whole working of the Ku Klux Klan. So I can't have books on my history, but you guys can have books on that type of history. And you got multiple books on that. So they didn't like that. They didn't like that. So I say to people who have issues with books, they got issues with all types of stuff. Now, I get it. Listen, if there's sexually explicit language in the books, I don't think no kid should be sitting back reading about sucking this and eating that and all that kind of stuff. I don't think little boys should be, little 10, 11, 12-year-olds should be sitting back looking at women's private parts because they're just not. I remember when I was that age, I used to fantasize with a Sibley's or a Sears or a J.C. Penney's catalog in the lingerie section when I was a little boy. Little boys' imaginations, they don't need much to work with. So I get that argument. I get that argument, all right? But I don't get the arguments that people are making about how, what type of history should be taught in school, what type of history shouldn't be taught in school. Yes, you should be saying that all people are bad. You shouldn't be saying that all, but y'all shouldn't be saying all parents are bad neither. You shouldn't be blaming everything that goes in the city on everybody in the cities neither. You shouldn't be saying everything that happens in crime. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of shouldn'ts that we can go around where we can sprinkle that shouldn'ts all over the place. All right, but having said all that, my people, we need to really stop and let's say, okay, fascism is on this side. Fascism says all those things that I've just been talking about that oppose, like, I don't think, people don't think that they say CRT. Everything is connected to CRT now because everybody's afraid of CRT, critical race theory, but no one wants to face the fact and really actually own up to the fact that CRT is not a hidden idea. It's not something that you cannot check out and find the facts. So I got 2 books right there I can just look at. 2 books off the top of my head. I got another one over there. I got one over here. I got books all around me that explain this CRT thing. Okay? That explains this. But fascist ideas want you to say that everything, because one of the things that the fascists control is the public view, the public opinion. All right, just like ultra-liberal people, they want to control what you think and what you believe. Just like they over this side on the far left want to control it, they over here on the far right want to control what you think too. All right, they want to control what you read. They both are fighting over with the future, and the future is the children. So we got all these people fighting over what we should be reading, what we shouldn't be reading, and here's where they miss it. Here's where they miss, I think. All right. Critical race theory is not about CRT. It is about law. I'm not going to keep saying this either. You need to check it out yourself. It's about law. It's about how laws were used and how the public opinion controlled what the lawmakers did. Look, Brittany Griner, I always pronounce her name wrong, so I apologize for that. She was over there in Russia in prison. All right. For having a little bit, she had 10 years to do for having a little bit of drugs. Mind you, I did 10 years for having a little bit of drugs in the United States of America. I did 10 years in prison. I wasn't facing. I knew the law. I broke the law, and I had a very little bit of drugs. My case involved less than a half a gram, a little bit over a quarter of a gram of crack cocaine. All right, bad. But I had to do. That cost me 10 years of my life, and 10 years of my family life, 10 years of my children's life, 10 years of my mama and my daddy, my brothers, my nieces, and my nephews. All of them had to do those 10 years with me over that little bit. All right, so we do that same thing here. But I digress. Me back up a little bit. We go back to get on topic. All right, so we look at these images that the media put out there for us, that the one side over the other put out there. Now Brittany, she went to jail. They brought her home. They didn't bring her home though, because the government said, "Oh, this is the right thing to do." They brought her home because of public opinion. Because they wanted to bring home in the beginning, they wanted to bring home not only her, remember, they wanted to bring home the prisoner of war from the military over there. The guy who was they said he was the Russia said he was a spy. America said they want him back. Russia ended up saying, no, we're not gonna let both of them, blah 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 blah. We'll let one go, and America said we're gonna bring Brittany home. That was because of public opinion. All right, that's because. Not because of what was right or what was wrong or good or was bad, because it would have been better to get both of them home. I think the military guy should have came home too. I think they should work to get him home. But I also believe that we need to look at our stance behind drugs also, because we're going to say they can't do it. Why can't we do it? But anyhow, that went on. Right, that stuff happens. That stuff happens. And control of public opinion is very important, because you can do things like that. In our schools, in our society today, what we got, like I said, the left over here, the right over here, these arguments that they're making against what material, what history should be served, it's not all online. Right? It's not all in line. Right? It's not all in line. The fascists over this side, they want to say that our history shouldn't be told. But when you look at the history is a history of laws. It's of rules. It's of policies that was put in place. That's what critical race theory talks about. Social emotional learning doesn't talk about laws. It talks about how you should be considering so forth, considering children and all the societal effects that everybody go through. All right, now the people that started it may have some ill intention. I don't know, but the people that use it, they're not trying to promote those things that people talk about. That's put out here, because the people over there, they're going to tell you that this everybody is that using these things, these ideals, they're using them to deceive you or to mislead you or to guide you down a bad road, and that's not to be true. We got to really look at this, because in order to change the narrative, which MBK is all about, we got to look at things realistically as they really are. All right, and for us. I'm just going on. I'm probably gonna take this down later on and chop it up and let it go back out in little pieces, because I'm all over the place today. I ain't been here in a while. I just want to get some stuff off my chest. So, and I like to vent to y'all that those who keep popping in and popping out. All right. So now look, back on topic. All right, I'm all over. The critical race theories. Those who are arguing against that. All right. Like I said before, I'm not gonna keep going through this here over and over again, but I want to tell you. In America, prior to a law being changed, all right, I'm saying again, a law being changed, a law being put in place, executive decision, if you may say, was implemented, which caused the law to change. All right, and what that was, all right, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation and freed the slaves in all states that was fighting in rebellion against the Union. They're not in slavery. He ended slavery. He freed the slaves. He didn't tell those states that you can't have slaves. He said, we are freeing the slaves in your state because you were rebelling against us. And they did so with the hope that the freed slaves will fight on the side of the Union, on the side of Lincoln and so forth, with the Republicans at the time, and say, we're going to support your movement for control of the thing called United States, the Union. So they did that. And then later on, They came back a couple years later, and they a year later they came back and they said, okay, now we're going to ratify the Constitution and we're going to add the 13th Amendment. Now that posed a serious question. That posed a serious question, and the question that posed was about rights. And what made that such a serious question was because they were talking about what rights should property have. Because prior to any of this stuff happening, in America, black people were property. Just like a couch, just like a dog. Let's look at like a dog. Your dog is your property. If you choose, you can breed your dog and get more dogs. And if you choose to, when you breed your dogs, you could sell your dogs. Because they're your dogs. Now, your dogs, that's your property. That's how they looked at black people in those days, like property. And then emancipation in the 13th Amendment said, now they're no longer property. Now black people are no longer property. But one of the laws that was in existence back prior to these laws being changed, they had a whole series of things called the slave codes. This is how a slave needed to act, how a slave shouldn't act. And AKA, this is what black people and a black person was defined in those times by law. See, this is what critical race theory talks about. By law, a black person was defined as a person who has a drop, a little bit of black blood. It wasn't what your hand looked, what your complexion was. It wasn't how fair your complexion was or how dark your complexion was. It was, did you have some dark blood in you? And the reason why that existed, people don't want to face this. These are things that could be, and I don't believe in. This is not being taught in schools. So they say critical race theory is being taught in school. Let's go through a little bit of it. These are some of the lessons that will be taught. All right. The reason why they come up with this law that said if you had a drop of black blood in you, you were black, because they wanted it to be okay for white men to rape black women and have children. Yes, they did this by law. The slave owner would have sex with his female slaves and make them pregnant so he could have more children, so he could have more slaves. And they want those children to not be able to cry, I'm white, because I'm fair-skinned. No, they want them to understand their place. So they created a law. And the laws were in place. And when the emancipation and the 13th Amendment was made, they amended the Constitution and added the 13th Amendment, it said all that has to stop. And in addition to that, they said that now black people are not property. So the issue became, what are they? Yeah, the issue became, what were we? What are black people? When they're not slaves. That was a long time we talking about. Yeah, I know. But we need to understand what those processes were that got there. That was the things that critical race theory talked about. We talk about how when black people started to say things like, no, I'm not a slave, I'm not property no more, I'm a person, I'm a human, I'm a man, I'm a woman. How they start to, oh, wait a minute now, hold on, let's talk about how we define that. And then court cases came out. One of the leading court cases was Percy versus Ferguson. That's one of the leading court cases that says it supported the idea that, yes, okay, black people, yeah, you are people. But you're not as good as white people. So they don't have to you don't have to mingle together. Matter of fact, you can't mingle. Yes, you're people, but you're going to be separate. You're going to be over there, and these people are going to be over here. So you're equal as being people. So they came up with this idea, yes, regardless of your color, you are all people. So this people is the equality. But you must be separate. Separate, but equal. Critical race theory explains that. And then the push, you understand that? It was a push. It was a push in America to keep Percy versus Ferguson, the land of the law. You see, they talk about the Roe versus Wade like it's a brand new thing that just happened. Oh my goodness, they took away a law that's been in place for 40 years or 50 years. Okay, Ferguson, Plessy versus Ferguson was in play for a lot of years too, from I think it was 1890 something or the early 19s. So I forget the exact year, but it didn't get overturned to Brown versus Board of Education. That was what Brown versus the Board of Education was about. It was about overturning Percy versus Ferguson. It was about overturning that. Brown versus Board of Education, it originated not as a way to say we need to integrate schools. It wasn't about integration at first. It was all about improving the conditions of black schools. Okay. And then it ended up turning as it went on and said, you know what, we got to overturn Percy versus Ferguson because the schools were arguing that Percy versus Ferguson didn't allow them to have the schools equal. It just said they had to be classified as people. They can be separate. We don't have to give them the same types of books. They just got to have books. We don't have to give them the same drinking water. They just got to have water. You know what I'm saying? All the things that this school needed over here, they just got to have it. The quality could be better over here. So, and they said Percy versus Ferguson upheld that. So they got rid of Percy versus Ferguson with Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas. But throughout all this, just like the Brittany Griner case, all right, just like with Brittany Griner case, how they use public opinion to get to choose, should we bring Brittany Griner home or should we bring the military guy home? Public opinion said you better bring her home. Politics said you better bring her home. There's a lot of things that said bring her home. I'm not talking about the right or wrong of it, but this is the decision. All right. And back then, when Percy versus Ferguson was in place, it had to make it to the Supreme Court to be challenged, to be struck down, because so many people uphold it. They believed in it. It was the way of the land. People believed that, yes, we should be separate. White people expected black people to act a certain kind of way. And black people understood that they had to act a certain kind of way. And if you didn't agree to that, if you were black and you didn't agree with that, if you were white and you didn't agree with that, they considered you an extremist. They considered you a rebellious one who was not compliant, one who needed to be dealt with. You see? So I can go on and on and on and on down the line here with this argument. All right. But fascists, they want you to believe that the argument is not about something that has always existed. They want you to think it's something new. They want you to think that what you're arguing about right now, what you're talking about right now, is a new concept, a new idea. No, it is not. No, it is not. It's the same old argument. It's the same old argument. It's just been dressed up and put on a pretty dress. Some have pretty backgrounds, but it's the same old argument. Who should control who? Who should be the voice? Who should be the dictator? What idea should run? What idea should lead? What should America look like? It shouldn't be considered of everybody. It should be the way it always has been. And if you sit back and look at how it has always been, you're going to have to use critical race theory. Yes, you're going to have to be critical. You're going to have to look at the issues between black and white people, because there is no way possible that you can advance America through a historical perspective and not consider what happened between white and black people. One thing that I had to talk to some young people about, I had to do this. One thing I had to talk to some young people about, because we're talking about Kwanzaa. I'm talking because I want people to understand all these things. I'm not saying you should celebrate or you shouldn't celebrate, but know it exists. All right. And also, we talk about Black History Month, because that's coming up. So the kids got to understand this. So you start thinking, say, okay, this is where it came from. When I watched a movie about the Cup series, and they talked about the Ferrari and all that. They started the movie out with talk about where the car came from. That's just what we do. When we talk about things, we talk about where they came from. All right. So when we talk about Black History, we start talking about Black History Month. I said, okay, now you got to understand who Carter G. Woodson is. Now Carter G. Woodson, he was the one. For those who don't know, he started the whole idea of Negro Heritage Week. Okay, Negro Heritage Week, and that was basically where they started talking about Black history. It was only for a week. It was done in a small setting. He wrote a book where he put this. It's called The Miseducation of the Negro. Simple book, Miseducation of the Negro. And some young people are like, wait a minute, James, what? We're not supposed to say Negro. What is that? What is Negro? They never heard that phrase before. So I said, well, how do I explain this to these young people and not do an injustice? So I said to them, what I just said to you all. There was a time before slavery, before slavery ended, before emancipation, before 13th Amendment, where all Black people were considered slaves. And everybody understood that the name for the slave was that nasty N-word. So when they ended slavery, the question became, now we don't want to call them that nasty N-word. What are they? So language, I'll explain the language barriers, how languages get a little weird. Some languages have letters when we put it in phonetics so we can understand. We use letters that confuse people. And the most confused two letters in a lot of languages is the E and the I. A lot of languages, they use the letter E in phonetics, and the letter E, as you all know, it sounds like A. And the I sounds like E or E. So see, there's no I sound in a lot of languages. And Spanish, which was predominantly being used at that time for Latin, rather for or language purposes, they used the phrase Negro, but they wrote it with an I. So they say instead of saying Negro, they say Negro, which translates to black. So they said the miseducation of the Negro, miseducation of the black. Why? Because they said we can't say the other N word, so they had to come up with a definition. And throughout, as time moved forward, that phrase became switched around. And some say Negro, some say African, some said African American, some said colored. There was all types of names to define Black people at that time because you couldn't. The only name for 300 some odd years that they used to describe Black people was derogatory and terrible, and something we can't use today. All right. So again, I'm gonna stop for a little while, and I'm gonna talk about this again, continue this conversation a little bit later. I may go to another platform and talk about it later on, but I want y'all to understand that in order for us to do better, we got to know better. And we gotta know that there is an opposite. All right, this idea of fascism is real. The fascists are real. They are fascists. We thought they were gone. No, they weren't. They're coming back. I'm gonna start calling it like it is, fascist. Anybody that sits back and want to say that my way of life, my views doesn't matter. What happened to me as a people doesn't matter, but what happened to the other people and to you and to them, that does matter. But you can't talk about what happened to me because your people did it. Yeah, I call you fascist. I call you a fascist. If you want to control what my what the narrative is for my people and for me and the likes, if you want to control it, you want to deny our ability, I call you a fascist. If you want to say that if you're black, and you say that I should be over this side and not that side because of how I look, I'll call you a fascist. Yes. Yep. I don't care. I call you a fascist because you're trying to dictate me. You're trying to dictate where we live and what we do and all that kind of stuff. We got to stop that. We're not going to come together. We're not going to unify until we first figure out how to get away from the far right and the far left. I mean, extreme liberalism and extreme or right wing fascism is not right neither. So let's call it what it is. They hide under these fancy names, these fancy titles, but fascism is what it is. It's fascism. All right, and we can't keep promoting fascism. Fascism is black. We don't even talk about it that much no more, so people don't even realize it exists. What is there? Fascism. Check it out. Look it up. Learn about it. See what it is. All right, and then ask yourself, how are you promoting it? How are you promoting it? If you do realize that you are promoting it, stop. Stop. Just stop. Let's figure out where we can come together and how we can work, because our society, our community, our world is not going to get better until um, we can all understand that the simple phrase. It's a simple phrase I read. All right, it says that God created man God created man from a single pair, and from that single pair, He created us into multitudes of nations and colors and languages, and He did so that we may get to know one another, not despise and hate one another. All right. We need to figure that out. We need to stop despising and hate one another because of how we look, and understand what happened to us all was done by a whole bunch of people who are no longer here, who thought they may have been doing something right, or maybe just was evil people. But they're not here, and we need to work together to figure out how we're gonna go forward and do this together. And consider each other's experiences as we go forward. We can't continue to say no. We're gonna ignore one side and the other. But we gotta come. We gotta understand what both say. We gotta start this healing process, and that healing process is embedded in what I call and what I believe is restorative justice. Yep, restorative justice. That's another topic. But hey, um, I'm about to bounce. But before I go, y'all know me. I'm always doing this. I'm always talking about stuff. This is where I'm at right now. We go. I'm standing out strong against fascism, and if you fascist, I'm gonna start calling you fascist. And we'll start. It is what it is. If you're part of a fascist group, you're a fascist group. That's what it is. If you can call people, you can turn around and say everything that somebody says that you don't agree with belongs to something. Well, I'm going to point out the facts. And the facts is right now is a lot of people acting like fascists, especially out here where we're at Wayne County. A lot of fascism a lot of fascism talk. We need to get away from that fascist talk, because there may not be a lot of black and brown people out here in Wayne County and places like this, but you got to consider us. You got to consider our children. You got to consider what our children need. You got to consider our education process. You got to consider our thoughts. You got to consider our family needs. You got to consider the fact that we travel lands. We got people all over the country in different places just like you do. And we got to be able to move and go amongst our people and not feel like sellouts neither, because we only took your way. Think about that for a second, y'all. Let that marinate. All right. And remember, fascism is real and it's still out here today. We need to get away from it. All right. I'm gonna see y'all next week. I'm gonna see y'all later on. All right. I'm gonna be back. I may be back later on. I might be on some other platforms, but whatever it is, check it out. All right. We're gonna keep this thing going. All right. I'll see y'all. Peace. 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 Remember, fascism is real. Fascism is real.